Let's begin with a simple proposition. If Crowngate could bring down the BBC controller in 2007, then why not Trumpgate doing the same thing in 2025? The principle is the same: manipulation of footage, misrepresentation of a public figure, and concealment behind the velvet curtain of BBC procedure. The only difference is scale. In 2007, it was the Queen's dignity that was compromised. In 2025, it's the integrity of an entire broadcaster. Tim Davie, the Director General, presides over a BBC that's become too cosy with its own naughtiness. It seems allergic to scrutiny, evasive when challenged, and incapable of genuine contrition. We now know that an internal advisor, Michael Prescott, warned the corporation that its Panorama episode Trump, A Second Chance, had completely misled viewers by splicing together two segments of a Donald Trump speech 54 minutes apart, and the edit made it appear that the then president urged the crowd to fight like hell and march to the Capitol, words he never said in that order. The omitted passage, which he urged supporters to protest peacefully and patriotically, vanished in the BBC's version. This is not a minor editorial oversight, it is fabrication by montage. It makes a man say what he never said. And for a broadcaster built on public trust and funded by license fees, that is surely unforgivable. The parallels with Crowngate are painfully exact. Then, a trailer falsely implied that Queen Elizabeth II had stormed out of a photo shoot. The sequence had been reversed. The fallout was swift and decisive. Peter Fincham and Stephen Lambert both resigned. The BBC issued a full report, a full apology. Standards mattered. The principle that the national broadcaster must be beyond reproach still carried moral force. But look at the BBC today. Stephen Lambert is behind the traitors. And Tim Davie is very secure. Confronted with evidence that one of its flagship programmes falsified chronology and content, its reaction is bureaucratic, not ethical. It hides behind committee language. We don't comment on leaked documents. It mumbles that differing views and opinions of our coverage are routinely discussed. No transparency, no accountability, no apology. And the complaint system, a labyrinth of delay and denial. Try to raise a concern about copied footage or lazy sourcing, and the BBC will first acknowledge your letter, then delay, then quietly drop the complaint. It's a process designed to exhaust, not resolved. How do I know? Because I've made a complaint. A system of inaction masquerading as oversight. As for Stephen Lambert, he set up a reality TV programme with a commitment not to edit out of sync, not to edit out of order. Whether he does that or not, that's another matter. But that was his commitment. Michael Prescott's dossier paints a bleak picture of a broadcaster unwilling to discipline itself. Even after an internal review found that Panorama's editing breached standards, senior executives refused to accept there had been a breach. They doubled down. Jonathan Munro, senior controller of news content, reportedly claimed it's normal practice to edit speeches into short-form clips. That line could be the BBC's epitaph. Normal practice to rearrange reality, to splice a president's words into something politically explosive. If that is normal practice, then normality has become corruption. Trump himself, predictably, will use this scandal to inflame his war against the media. His retaliation will be theatrical and vindictive, but that doesn't absolve the BBC, it compounds the problem. The BBC has handed him ammunition, proof that the institution he despises can at times play fast and loose with the truth. The question now is whether Tim Davie, the man at the top, can survive this erosion of credibility. Davie's tenure has been defined by managerialism, not moral leadership. He's talked endlessly about impartiality, and I don't really know how he can survive. He's presided over a culture where editorial accountability has decayed. When Panorama's misjudgment came to light, he should have acted decisively, commissioned an external inquiry, suspended those responsible, spoken directly to viewers. Instead, silence. The BBC's public defence was not one of principle, but of process, and the distinction matters. Process protects institutions. Process is, well, the BBC has chosen the former. The BBC has chosen to protect the institution rather than to protect principle and truth. So yes, it's time to ask whether Tim Davie should resign. The Trumpgate affair has exposed not only editorial misconduct but institutional complacency. It's the culmination of a pattern. From the manipulation of Gaza footage to the mishandling of complaints to the quiet burial of internal dissent. In 2007, the BBC bowed to the monarch it misrepresented. In 2025, it shrugs at the president it distorted. The difference is not in the gravity of the act, but in the character of the institution. Once the BBC recognised it had crossed a line, today it denies that there ever was a line. Tim Davie's resignation would not merely punish a mistake, it would signal the rebirth of accountability. It would say that integrity still matters more than convenience. Until then, the question will hang over Broadcasting House like a fog. If the BBC cannot tell the truth about truth itself, why should anyone believe a word it says?